Hey, welcome into the Big Ten Huddle. JR, Zach here, talking more about this Ohio State Michigan game. One thing that's getting talked about a lot is the prospect of some snow in this game. Looks like it could be a high in the low 30s, which, if there's some precipitation, definitely could turn into snow a little bit in this one. Maybe not like the blizzard of something that we've seen in the past, but definitely some snow in this one. And the main talking point in this is that the Michigan fans want the snow, which you think would play into their hands, correct? Ohio State could have some issues passing the ball, different things like that. Zach, my first question to you is how much do you think the snow would limit Ohio State's passing game in this one? Or are you somebody that, looks at it and says, I don't think it would limit it very much at all? What are your thoughts?
How much snow are we talking?
Last time I checked, it wasn't much. It was just kind of like flurries a little bit. I'll double check again, but
Yeah, I don't care about snow. Now, if you tell me that there's 20-mile-per-hour gusts or larger, or that
that's
it's going to
that's
be
Northwestern type of games there, Zach. That's
yeah, right. Or if it's sleeting, if it's sleet where the ball is more slick, then yeah, I like that would concern me more. But honestly, I think snow actually hinders Michigan more than Ohio State when it comes to the passing game
wow.
because the receivers know the routes they're running. The DBs don't. And what happens with snow is that it makes the ground more slick. So, like, receivers might lose their footing a little bit, but I actually think they could probably brace themselves better than the DBs could.
Hmm. Yeah, it says cloudy with light snow developing during the afternoon. So right there around game time. High of winds south at 5 to 10 miles per hour. Chance of snow is 70%. Accumulation of less than 1 inch. So not a lot of snow, not a lot of wind. I tend to agree with you that I think there's a notion out there that Ohio State doesn't like to play in the cold, and I understand where that's coming from. Kind of early on, I think it was a 21 and 22 game that really kind of started that. I think it was the 21 game where that kind of started that, but I think we saw Ohio State play in some pretty cold conditions against Tennessee. One team tried to act tough and come out there shirtless, and eventually right away went right back into the locker room and said, "Oh boy, I'm cold. Give me next to a heater or something like that." And the other team just came out and took care of business because they've been used to this. I mean, I do think the notion that like Ohio State is this tropical, like palm trees and they never get snow there a little bit gets a little bit overplayed, but I don't think that it's going to affect the passing game all that much. I tend to agree with you. As long as there's no high winds or anything like that, I think it's an inconvenience, but I think in this game, the passion that's being played with and everything else, I don't think a minor inconvenience is going to greatly affect anybody.
Yeah, I don't think like and don't get me wrong. I've picked Michigan to win. So I'm not going to sit here and pump Ohio
But you
State up.
didn't pick Michigan to win because there's snow.
No, like the snow is not going to be the factor for Ohio State's downfall. It just won't be. Because and I think to your point, Ohio State has changed its profile a bit in how they play. They are, as much as the toughness thing is overplayed, yes, they don't run the ball as well as I think a lot of people would like, but their passing game has not been like all over the yard. It's been pretty controlled. It's been pretty efficient. They're not going over the top all that much. They can. They're effective at it, but they don't do it a ton. So I just don't think it's not CJ Stroud in 2021 and 2022 yet. Yet. I think they can be, but that hasn't been how they've played.
Yeah, yeah, I tend to agree. Do you agree with me that you know Ohio State kind of got rid of the snow cold concerns in that Tennessee game?
Well, I mean, when you look at the specimens that were over at Tennessee, I I think it's less. I mean, I don't think Tennessee was ready for it. I think I think Michigan and Ohio State are both prepared. So I think that narrative of one team has an advantage over the other because of the cold. Like I think Ryan Day made the point today. Like Julian Sayin's everybody's making the idea that Julian Sayin's a California kid. He's been in Ohio for a year and a half now, 2 years. I mean, heck, he practiced in pregame warmups last year against Michigan with shorts on. So, like, he's not this. I don't think it's a good narrative. I don't know if the playoff game proved it. Clearly, it hasn't proved it in the minds of Michigan fans. But maybe I don't think it's a narrative talking point anymore. Like, I think if you think the cold is a factor, I just think it's a minor thing out of the other 100 things that could be bigger factors.
Yeah, I know a lot of middle school boys that will go out and wear shorts in snow weather. So Julian saying, he's definitely channeled his inner middle school Midwest boy who even on the snowiest days, January and February of school, still wears shorts to school, and it's like, what are you doing? Like,
Yeah.
it's okay, just wear long pants. You don't have to wear shorts there, buddy. I substitute teach sometimes, and every year when I go in and I see middle school boys with shorts on, and it's like it's 3 degrees outside, dude. It's like anyway. Enough
Yep.
about my substitute teaching. Last question, and then we'll get you out on this one here, Zach. Does Michigan benefit from the snow on both sides of the ball? Because I do think that, obviously if it's snowing, I do think that it could make Ohio State run a little bit more. Or, Michigan does do a good job in the running, but I'm not so sure that Ohio State has the running disadvantage that we've seen all in these Michigan games the past few years. Michigan's interior, their defensive line is fine, but they're not Mason Graham. They're not Kenneth Grant. And Jay Barham is really good at, getting around blocks and being able to chase down dudes. But I tend to think if you put Austin Seierfeld right in front of Jay Barham and you say block him and run straight at Jay Barham, I think the running back's going to be able to make some cuts and get around him a little bit more than some people give him credit for. What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I mean, I don't think the snow is a benefit to Michigan. I think at
At
first glance,
all?
I would say it all.
Wow. Okay.
And maybe I'm on a limb here, but I already mentioned the point about the receivers versus their DBs. I think it gives them an advantage with Andrew Marsh against Ohio State's DBs. Um, but there is a difference between Underwood has been far more inconsistent than Julian Sayin has. So there is that advantage there, but I think to your point about the running game, I, I just don't know how much it helps either team. I think if anything, it actually might make it a higher scoring game, which I think favors Ohio State. Like I don't like Michigan does not want to get into a track meet, but and the thing with the snow and with any moisture is that your defense now has to figure out what the offense is doing while also making sure they keep their balance on a slippery surface. That's really difficult to do. And if you're not careful, you're gonna leave wide open guys. And so I think that's true in the pass game. I think to your point about the running game, yeah, like I think Ohio State's very varied in its running game. But I think when they choose to do the plays that they are effective at, they are effective at them. And I'm not sure it's going to matter if Michigan. I should have thought this out before I started talking. My verbal processing is a wonder to behold,
You're like
folks.
Michael Scott. Sometimes I start talking and I just find myself along the way.
Yeah. Amen. I just don't think I'll just have this. I don't think it's the advantage that people think it is.
I don't think that Michigan has the advantage in stopping the run against Ohio State that they have had in the past. Does that mean they have no advantage? No, of course not. I think Michigan, has a really good defensive line still, and I think they've always had a good defensive line with Espinoza there, really ever since this rivalry started going Michigan's way a little bit more.
Hmm.
So I don't want to completely discredit that, but I look at this and I say, I it's kind of what we were saying in the offseason. I don't think you have a guy like Mason Graham and a guy like Kenneth Grant on your defensive line, and you just randomly bring in two guys behind him and say, "Yep, they're going to be just as good." Rayshon Benny's fine. I don't think Rayshon Benny is a bad player at all, but I don't think Trey Williams has been who people thought he was going to be, or and that kind of stuff. And I think that Caden McDonald is the best defensive line, interior defensive lineman in the country at this point. So, if it does come down to who runs the ball the most, I think Ohio State's got a good shot there. We'll see what happens. And I also think too, if Carnell Tate and Jeremiah Smith are healthy, throw play action in there. If it's just run the ball, loaded up boxes, I think Ohio State's got a good chance to go with a play action, hit a Jeremiah Smith or Carnell Tate over the top for a big gain.
Yeah, I tend to agree with you. Again, just thinking about how does the snow impact Michigan? Does it give them an advantage? And again, I I don't think they have the dudes up front where it becomes an insurmountable advantage for them. So I was just as you were talking, I was looking up Rayshon Benny's draft stock. Do you have any idea where he's slated to go?
I can look it up on PFF really fast.
Okay, I was looking and I couldn't find it. I know he's certainly not a first rounder. We like Rayshon Benny, by the way. Like,
No, but I don't think anybody thought he was going to be a first rounder right away, right?
yeah,
If they did, I don't know what you've seen from him to think that. Looks like he's
yeah,
going to be a day 3 guy right
yeah.
now if he leaves.
That's what Fox Sports is saying.
Yeah, their highest guy is Rod Moore, who looks like a second rounder. Derek Moore, second rounder. This is PFF. And then
Mhm.
Jayshon Barham is looking like a third or fourth rounder.
Yeah,
So, and then Justice Haynes is up there too, but he could always come back. Justice Haynes still has eligibility, and he might
yeah,
come back after getting injured. We'll see.
yeah. It is fascinating. I'm like looking at Fox Sports, their top 10 NFL draft eligible players in this game. Guess how many players Michigan has on this list?
In the top 10 overall,
Yeah, yeah.
none.
They're more than none.
Oh, one.
Two. Guess
Who
how
are
many
they?
are in the well, before I guess how many are in the top 5?
Two.
One.
One. Okay.
He's fifth. So it's
Who?
Derek Moore is 5, Rayshon Benny's 10.
Wow.
And that's
That's
draft eligible. So not Jeremiah Smith, not Julian Sayin, not Bryce Underwood, obviously.
yeah. That's a huge disagreement from PFF here. PFF has Derek Moore 82 and Rayshon Benny 243. That's
Interesting.
pretty crazy.
Yeah.
Well, I guess Fox Sports and PFF will have their own little NFL draft off, and we'll see how it works out there. Zach, any other thoughts on the weather for the game?
No, I just think I think it's an if it were wind and pouring down rain, like I think that severely hampers Ohio State. But it's not. It's snow. And I like snow does not really impact the catch point like rain, like heavy rain or sleet does. Now, if it turns to sleet, I like that changes things fairly dramatically. But
Mm-hmm.
other than that, I think it's not going to impact either team all that much.
Well, you heard it here first, Ohio State fans. Pray for no sleet in this one, and just pray for the snow. So we'll see how it goes. Thanks everybody for watching. Have a good one. We'll see you next time.